Welcome to the Only One Mic podcast. Carl Gerard, Brooklyn Dre. Just Me is off today, and today we have a very, very, very special guest, Miss Paris Woods. How you doing, Miss Woods?
Thanks for having me.
All right, good to have you. Paris is the author of The Black Girl's Guide to Financial Freedom. I had the opportunity to read your book. I actually brought it for my daughter,
Oh, thank you.
At that age. No problem. And she's at that age now, and she's venturing out, doing her thing. And it's all right, well, let's try to do this the right way. It's time to start saving some money. I brought the book for her, Paris, and I ended up reading like most of it, to be honest with you. So she's like, Dad, where's my book at? I said, no, first I got to get this lady on here to discuss this book. So for our listening audience, can you please let the audience know about you, your background, what led you to writing this book? Tell us about yourself.
And then show us how to get to the bag. That's what we want to know.
Yeah, we got
to get to the bag.
My pen ready. Go ahead.
Oh man, I love that so much. I love that you bought the book for your daughter. Because as you saw, so much of the book are mistakes I wish I had avoided and simply didn't have the guidance growing up. So if we can avoid it, great. If not, I'd tell you how to fix it as well. But I grew up in St. Louis, I'm from the Midwest, and in sort of this typical, single parent home with a mom who was a great mom. She loved us and poured into us and encouraged us and made sure we went to good schools and all of that. The one thing she didn't really know how to do was sort of get the money piece together. Right. So I saw her struggling to pay bills. I saw her working multiple jobs. And, for me, the ticket out of poverty was education. And that's how we were raised. So I was a straight A student, right? I did everything I was taught to do. And the big reward was this admission letter to Harvard University. So that is where, I went to college and graduate school. And the unfortunate story behind that is despite all of that education and, preparation perhaps for a good career and a good life, I did not learn money management skills and sort of entered the adult world with a lot of misconceptions about what money looks, how to manage money, what success looks like. Found myself in all kinds of debt, trying to look successful and feel successful. And so, by the time I turned 30, I was definitely behind, sort of realizing that the actions I had been taking were not going to get me where I wanted to go in terms of building wealth and experiencing financial freedom. And that motivated me to turn things around. So I sort of became an astute student of personal finance, right? Took all that brain power and put it toward getting my money together. And so the book itself is really the book I wish I had before I made all these mistakes. And it's the book, it felt very urgent. I wrote it sort of right in the middle of the pandemic. I had just been laid off from my job and, had the good fortune of being able to travel and take some time off and sort of enjoy fun employment. And I felt privileged. And, I was like, all right, I need people to read this book now because these strategies are what can help you, especially in the volatile world that we live in today, where anyone, sort of a 2-time Harvard graduate, could lose their job. Any of us could find ourselves in this position, and we need to be prepared. We cannot be relying on employment to live a good life.
Well, I see that you wrote that book during the pandemic, which seems to have been the great motivator for a lot of people stepping out and doing a lot of different things, whether they left their job or the job left them, however it works. And I just got to say, shout out to that because you went ahead and you stepped out and did what you had to do.
When you started to get on top of things, as far as your finances is concerned, what did you start with? Or as far as like were you reading anything?
Yeah. I started my journey with good old Dave Ramsey, which I think a lot of folks start there. It may not be where you finish, but at least he, can ignite a fire and have you thinking differently about things like debt. I read that book just on a whim, and it got me started on this debt freedom journey. And sort of as I was gaining confidence, sort of experiencing having more money after paying off some of these bills, it got me really interested in what to do with that money and got me interested in doing more research and sort of returning to some of those lessons I had learned earlier. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in high school, right? And all of these sort of tools when you have money, what to do with it. So that's what sort of got me back on track and thinking about how to more wisely allocate those dollars after, I was out from under the weight of debt.
Now, you wrote in your book, you said that what was missing in the financial advice space was a plan for someone like you, I guess, meaning someone like us, meaning African-American people, right? So I always had like this thing with like Susie Orman. It seems like when she talked about finance, that it was never geared towards people who are struggling. Like, never told you how to get up. It just told you how to get more. When you wrote that book, did you have that mind state like, I absorbed all this information and now I just want to take it and restructure it for our people?
Yeah, I wanted a personal finance book for regular people. I work in education, and, I'm very motivated sort of by impact. And, part of the shift I had to make when getting out of debt is also being concerned about how much money I'm being paid for the impact that I have at work. But, I'm not a PhD in finance, and I'm not the kind of person who loves spreadsheets and loves tracking every single dollar. And I'm not trying to get a second and a third job in investing, right? I want to enjoy my life and my money. And I needed a plan that works for someone like me. And I think you're right. I think a lot of us are similar to myself, where we want to enjoy our life, we want to enjoy our money, and we need a plan for regular folks that will allow us to do that without taking the hard route. So what's the easy way? And, based on my research and based on my experience, it actually doesn't have to be hard. And I want folks to understand the simple path to wealth.
See, I woke up, I want to say financially, I woke up about 7 or 8 years ago, and I probably blew a lot of money and didn't handle things properly over the years. And like you said, I grew up in Brooklyn, and my mother and father, we had great parents, but, they really didn't have no idea on how to, save and invest and stuff like that. They were struggling, So with what you're saying, I totally, I feel like we relate on, because once I found out how to invest and save, and I'm like, within the last 8 years, I made so much money, just doing the right thing, not spending money like I used to, blowing it on a bunch of different things that I normally would blow money on. I started, I think I put like 15% in like my 401k. I got a TD Ameritrade account, and I started investing. And I'm a novice investor, but I did all right. I guess my simple in my simple mind, it was just like invest in a good company and just sit back and relax. Obviously the pandemic has caused things to go a little left as of recent, but everything was going pretty good up until the pandemic. So I'm still kind of a bear investor. So I'm just going to sit back and relax, and everything would seem like it's coming back. It's just going to take its time. Are you into investing, or is it just more like a money management type?
Yeah. So I believe in sort of long-term investing. And the strategy I prefer is index funds, right? So max out your 401k. If you can qualify for a Roth, max that out as well. Right. Buy index funds and buy consistently, especially when the market is low. Never stop, never take it out. So definitely in it for the long term.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the one thing that I did. I think out of my check of working, and I think I had like 15% out of my check. I think maybe 9% was going towards a 401k. The other 6% was going through a Roth 401k. And like I said, I tell my son as of right now, because I'm trying to guide him into it. And I'm like, dude, this is it. I didn't do too much in the last 8 years. I've seen a tremendous growth in my income, in my money. So, I hear what you're saying. And it's kind of hard to get us to understand, It's hard to get us to understand.
That's what I was going to ask you too, Paris. It's like, let's just talk about our tribe here. All right. What is the biggest issue that you see amongst our people? Because I know, Dre, that's actually my brother, by the way. So, right. We have this discussion all the time about how we are trained to spend money foolishly. Looking at how things are going right now, what is the best advice that you can give our people? What would you say about that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love the fact that y'all are helping your kids with this. Because honestly, if all you did, was invest a couple $100s a month starting young, they'd be millionaires by our age with the index fund strategy, exactly. Right? Like it's just...
I say this all the time.
So sooner the better, right? If we as parents can help our kids avoid getting into debt and get them started with really basic, simple investing, that's literally all that they need to do to build wealth. By the time you make it to our age, we got some more challenges. We've had some experiences. We've had some stress. We may be countering that stress with a little retail therapy. So it becomes really hard to tell people what to spend their money on. Okay. You know, and even for myself, what I've had to do is balance and say, I'm going to spend, and for me, you know, I have an aggressive investing strategy, right? So I'm spending half today and investing half for tomorrow. And so the half I spend today, I spend on whatever I want. Like, I'm not going to judge myself for whatever I buy. If I want to get Uber Eats every day, if I want to go on some lavish vacation, because I know I've got tomorrow taken care of. So if you can sort of create a system up front, make some decisions up front about how much you're going to be spending, and make sure all the money you're not spending is like put out of sight, out of mind, get it out of your checking account. Why are we using credit cards, right? Like, get that money to a place where it's inaccessible, then you can spend freely and spend more free, you know, feel more free with the money that you're spending. And the other piece is, you know, you can't budget your way out of poverty. I mean, we need more money. Like, that is where the book starts. You know, the second half of the book is about making more money. And I think that's the conversation we're not having enough. People think about getting second and third jobs and gambling and, you know, doing all this craziness. It's like your main job is taking advantage of you if you're not earning enough money to hit your goals. And that's where we got to start, with making more. And then we can talk about some of these other fun strategies about what to do with the money, right?
Yeah, initially my plan was that too, but it actually worked out. I mean, I'm not, like I say, to find a better job, obviously, is at the end, that's the goal. To find the best job that's making the best money. But initially, when I started out, like I said, 8 years ago, I took a second job, and I was like, well, I'm going to get this second job, and I'm just going to double up on everything. And I really could have survived off the one job, but, you know, the second job really allowed me to invest, like you said, aggressively, and be able to throw a whole check into something, you know. So, you know, I wouldn't necessarily shun away against the second job. But again, it's something that's difficult, especially when you have a family.
I did the second job too when I was getting out of debt. So I view that as a good short-term strategy.
Right.
And that's what made me realize I'm working, you know, to the bone. I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm tired. I'm working evenings and weekends, and this is not sustainable. So for me, I was like, how am I going to make this work and enjoy my life? And I had to find another job. That was the conclusion that I reached. I got a career coach. Like, I paid for support and doubled my income through a shift in the role that I had. I wouldn't have guessed that was possible if I wasn't focusing there. And, you know, I thought I had reached the peak of where I could be. I was an executive director, you know, receiving a lot of acknowledgement and awards and respect, but the money wasn't where it needed to be. Right. And it wasn't enough. And I had to make a decision that I was going to make a shift there so that I don't got to work 16 hours a day. I can work 8 hours a day and make the same amount.
Now, being an educator, do you feel that, because I know extensively that I think this is something that needs to be done, teaching kids about this stuff while they're young? Like, your book, I feel, would be a good jumping on point, even though, you know, you got the Black Girls Guide to Invest in, was, so, you know, got to do something for the guys. Paris, or you just waiting for somebody to write that book, you know? But
anyone can read it, you know.
Yeah, I know. Because I want to just tell everybody, don't get put off by the title and all, because those things that you put in there, those tips and all that was in that book, can apply to anybody. Or just, you know, if you just want to teach your kids, you know, with the children. Do you think that this is a curriculum this should be just like a curriculum for kids to kind of get into investing, get into saving, so by the time they become our age, they're not working 7 days a week and killing themselves? It could be like Venus. You can was it Venus or Serena that retired at 40? You know?
Yeah, Serena.
Yeah, Serena. So you can be like Serena. She retiring at 40, but she's a professional tennis player.
I want every young person, by the time they make it to 30 or 40, to no longer need to work, to have enough money saved and enough money invested that if they decided tomorrow they don't want to show up at work, that's a decision they can make. More importantly, when people at work start acting crazy, because I've heard too many stories of employers taking advantage of folks, and we stay because we need that paycheck.
Right.
So freedom, like real freedom, comes from having money in the bank.
Yes.
And I think that's the goal I would love to see every educator set for their students. And that's a different strategy from your typical financial literacy education, which is about how to use credit cards and how to buy a house. And every young person I talk to is asking me how to build their credit. And I'm like, I want you to ask me how to build wealth. I want you to ask me how to build freedom. And that's what we're not teaching young people.
Right, right.
It's definitely empowering because I even know with myself. I mean, like I said, you talk to people different when you got money in your pocket. You're not your money in your bank. You know what I mean? And they talk to you different too. You know what I mean? They recognize that, like you're not sitting there and you're handcuffed to your desk or anything like that. Like you have to, like you need them. Your job talks to you differently when they don't have any money. That's what it seems like to me. But,
right. Like how would it feel to show up at work because you want to be there and you don't need to be there? Exactly. I mean, it's a different mindset. It's a different experience, right?
We as Black people, we are pigeonholed, like you said, to these jobs because, we feel that we need to sustain it. So some of us, like all our forerunners will work themselves to death pretty much. And you hear the story of how, grandpa worked so many jobs and, didn't have a lot of time for the family, but he provided. And I think that we are at the stage now where we can kind of go past that, where you can work and sustain and still have time for your family and all in a perfect world, but we can achieve that. You know what I mean?
This next generation, they can do it. If we help them, they can do it. Right. For sure.
Oh, right? They're intelligent. To be honest with you, this generation, we look at them as crazy because they are a little crazy.
Yeah.
But they are about getting to some money. Different from us. Their whole goal is to get $1. Unfortunately, sometimes the way to get $1 is the wrong way of getting it.
You want to get a stress-free dollar, stress-free dollar. So I also heard you mention that this all came about from a vision that you had of what your life would look like in this financial freedom space. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah. So I, was participating in a program for early stage philanthropists in education. And, part of what they were up to with us is helping us build this philanthropic identity. Like you don't have to be a billionaire to be a philanthropist. And honestly, especially in the Black community, we're some of the biggest givers that there are, maybe to churches, right? But we're giving money. So how do we build that identity and what impact do you want your giving to have on the world and on your future? So in that program, one of the things we had to do was build a 20-year vision for ourselves. And so, it's my first time setting such a long-term vision since I was younger, and planned to become a psychologist and set this vision and failed my first psychology thing. And I was like, I'm done with visioning. Right. At 19, right. I was done.
Yeah, that's enough of that.
But, I came back around. I was like, all right, I could do this.
Right.
And, by the time I really got settled into developing something I felt excited about, this financial freedom piece was top of mind for me. So it's something I had been keeping kind of personal, something I spent a lot of personal time with. All my friends and sort of those people close to me knew that I had a lot of resources and knowledge here, but I wanted to do something more with it. And so 20 years from today, I said, in the vision, it came out that I had written this book that was so impactful, wow. Right? That was something I dreamed of. And so, after I wrote that down, you got to, backwards map to the present and say, well, what did I do today that created that future? Mm-hmm. And the book had to be written. I mean, I knew I had to get started doing my research right then and there. How does one write a book? How does one publish a book? I mean, how do I make this a reality?
How long did it actually take you to get all that going?
I wrote the first draft in 8 weeks.
Okay.
I was motivated. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Now, learning about the process of developing a good product. There's lots of editing. You got to get, your initial beta readers to read it and give you feedback, and you got to hire folks to take a look at it. So it was definitely a longer process to get it to the finish line. But that initial getting the outline done and getting the first draft done was really fast because I was really motivated. I knew what I wanted to say, and it was just a matter of organizing it and getting it on paper.
So that was the first thing on the vision board that was like, this is what we're going to do, is write this book.
Yep.
All right. So describe the feeling that you had when that first thing was accomplished.
Oh, man, it was such a process. And it's one thing for me internally to say, I'm writing a book and to sit on my computer and write it. But you have to get so many additional people involved. And so by the end of it, by the time it came out, I had a whole cheerleading squad of folks who were invested, who read it, who loved it, who couldn't wait to spread the word to their friends. So that felt good just from the community reaction and from how excited people who knew me were. And so, I was both excited and nervous because, you never know if your friends are telling you the truth. Like, oh, okay, I love it for real,
Yeah.
So I couldn't wait to hear reactions from people who didn't know me at all.
Right.
So we just had to put the book out there and see. And of course, pleasantly surprised that so many folks has sort of had a ripple effect. And people who don't know me are messaging me on social media saying how impactful the book has been. So that just feels amazing.
Has anybody contacted you as far as trying to start maybe a workshop?
Yeah, I've had multiple people contact me about coaching. So I've started a coaching program this year. And I also taught a course to college students last summer on the content. So yeah, folks are excited, thinking about how do we get this information into as many hands as possible.
Yeah, like I said, it's a difficult thing to get us to do this. The people that I got to actually start doing some of the things that I was doing, they had to see my money first. You know what I mean? To see, they say, oh, he's not blowing smoke to us. He's actually doing something, Actually, my brother's one of them,
Yeah,
so
it took me a minute. I'm a workhorse, to be honest with you. And it's like the mentality I'm trying to kind of slowly get away from as I'm getting older. This killing yourself stuff is not... It's not good.
So outside of 401k and stuff like that, I mean, you don't go directly into the market or anything like that, or just just leave it straight 401k.
Yeah, the movement that has really appealed to me is this financial independence, retire early movement. And these folks are sort of using that same strategy. So, they'll exceed well beyond their tax advantage accounts and move to regular brokerage accounts. But the math works to where, given the history of the market, if all you did was a total stock market index fund in the long run,
right,
you can retire off of that. I like the simplicity of it. As I sort of mentioned at the outset, I'm not trying to get a PhD in investing. I'm not trying to be researching companies and watching the market and all of that. I'm interested in the simplest, lowest stress path, and the reliable path with what to do with my money. One of my favorite books is The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins, who is obviously an old, wealthy white man, right? But what I like about the book is he wrote it for his daughter. Say, all right, if you don't want to get into finance, if you just want to do what are the basic things I need you to do to be able to build wealth and have that freedom we talked about for our kids? And this was the strategy he advised her to take.
I read some of those books, The Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a few other books. Outside of what you've already explained, is there any book that you've read that you say, well, that's the one that turned on a light for you, or, it made things a little bit easier for you? You know what I mean? Yeah. If you don't know what's going on.
I mean, The Simple Path to Wealth is a good one. I think everyone needs to have that book. The Richest Man in Babylon is one of the books I used in the course for the college students. And one of the things I took away from that is, who are you taking advice from? Because a lot of people have a lot of opinions.
Right.
I used to work in admissions at Harvard, and I would read these essays from kids who are perfectly admissible, and the adults in their lives are telling them, oh, you shouldn't apply. You'll never get into Harvard. And I'm about to admit you, right? And they're talking to folks who never set foot on Harvard's campus, right? So it's so critical. Who are you taking advice from? Have they been where you're trying to go? And I think that lesson comes through really clearly in The Richest Man in Babylon, in addition to paying yourself first. And there are really good principles in there. So I think that's another one folks should read.
Let's talk about detractors, because you're a Harvard graduate coming from humble beginnings. Harvard graduate, I believe 2 times, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bachelor's and master's.
So
talk that talk. That's a big talk. That's a big talk. Get it right.
Hard flex right there. All right. So let me ask you, did you have those detractors in your life that said, you coming from these humble means, what makes you think you can go to Harvard? And what was your feeling when you internalized that? What was the feeling that was? Did you have that doubt? Did you have the doubt or the desire to do it more?
I think I had the benefit of a mother of faith.
Right.
And, faith is believing things you can't see. It's like, where's the evidence? We don't have it. So then you to faith.
That's a fact.
And her faith was so strong that I think she did a good job blocking all the negativity. Because most people, you tell I want to go to Harvard from my community, from, come from where I'm from, would say that's silly.
Right.
Like, oh, maybe you need to make, a little more reasonable. Maybe you go to WashU. I grew up in St. Louis. Like maybe that would be a reasonable goal. But my mother she started buying stuff from Boston, like putting up Massachusetts flags in our house. Just like she believed more than I did.
Right.
We were going to make it happen. And she wasn't even surprised when I got in. I was elated. I was excited. I couldn't believe it. I worked my butt off and I planned and did all that stuff, but I still was surprised.
She saw your potential. It's weird because I have my children and I ain't that smart. But them, I'm like, yo, you should be shooting for more because I see their potential. They're so much smarter than me. So much more smart than me. I'm street smart kid. That's about it for me. But I know I know how to make $1. You know what I mean? And but I look at them and I'm like, wow, like some of the information they can get and they can process immediately. I'm not as fast with it. So I think the same thing with your mom is like she's probably looking at you and she's seeing how you can, run through things, get your point across, and you can dibble and dabble. And then she's like, don't limit yourself. You know what I mean? So I see your mom. You have children?
No, not yet.
Oh, so then you'll see it. You'll see it eventually. You know what I mean? Then some of them you might not see it. You're like, you're gonna have to get a job.
So I want you to read the book and write a book report about the book.
Right.
What your thought about it is, but let's give it up to mom. Yeah, 'cause
mom was smart.
Mom was smart. Very intelligent. Very intelligent.
Mom had an investment. She invested in her future.
Exactly. Exactly. Like when I gave my daughter money to go to school, right? And I said, that's what it is. You are now an investment. So that means it's time for you to go to work. I want a return on my investment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what mom did for you. So that's where we at right now.
I'm not going in no home. That's not going to happen.
How did she feel? Well, I know you said that she didn't see your face, but I know inside she had to feel something. What do you think that feeling?
Yeah. I mean, she was telling everybody and their mom. So I know she was proud. And I only just started buying Harvard stuff. It's like, I don't like to tell people, but my mother, my family, all my friends have all the Harvard gear. Like they represent and they feel so proud. And it does feel like you're showing up to represent your community, when you show up at a school like that.
How did it feel when you stepped on that campus coming from?
Oh my goodness.
So how did that feel?
Everything. It was all the emotions, all the fear and the excitement wrapped up into one. I like to say, I exited poverty the day I set foot on that campus because there are just resources upon resources everywhere you look.
Right.
I got exposed to so much diversity and even within the Black community, so much diversity and being around people who are so inspiring. It's like everyone's good at something. And the thing they're good at, they're really good at it. And so I was so inspired to be there with my peers, made some of my best friends in the world. Right. And I struggled. I had to figure out my identity. I went from being this straight A student in high school where everything was easy to getting my first B's. I think I got a C. I told y'all I failed that psychology thing, my first psychology assignment. So that, as an 18-year-old going through this like identity, reformation and thinking about who am I? If my identity is not tied to being the smartest person in the room, then who am I? So that's challenging to go through at that age and away from home.
How did mom feel when you got that B though? How did mom feel about that?
Oh, my mom, there's nothing I could do to make her any less proud of me. She's like, ooh, she didn't care.
Well, she got a B in Harvard.
You passed, didn't you? You passed, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it was more intimidation coming from humble beginnings or not?
I went to the best high school in the state of Missouri. And let me just tell you, the work at that high school did not compare to what I had faced in college. It was just different.
Right.
And I had to learn. How to figure it out. I got back to making A's by the time I graduated and it was done. So it was definitely a 4-year process of finding that excellence again. But now there's nothing you can give me that's too hard. Like it also helped build my confidence in myself.
Right.
And there's now no challenge I find insurmountable because I know I'll figure it out just like I did that experience.
Because you accomplished so much at such a young age, you know what I mean? What did we see like the 10-year plan?
I'm working on the doctorate now, y'all.
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
All right. Applaud this young lady.
All right.
All right. Working on the
Might
doctorate.
have to keep you as a friend. We might have to hold something later on. You know what I mean?
Trying to get that last degree done.
Right. Okay.
And we'll see what happens, with the financial freedom journey that I'm on. The vision is for other people's lives to be affected. Like I would love 10, 20 years from now to see the young people that we're talking to be financially free as a result of this podcast or as a result of the book or whatever it is. So that's what I want to see. I'm all about impact now.
I'm hoping to see like some real like workshops come up because I hear a lot of African American people now talking about, finances and stuff like that. But to be perfectly honest with you, I don't see a lot of free resources for children to learn these things. You know what I mean?
Just people in general. That's one of the things that should be in the communities, as well. So, teach them that this is what we can do.
And there are so many folks doing good work. So how do we sort of amplify those voices like y'all are doing?
Or push them in the right direction, I should say.
Yeah, get those resources into people's hands.
Right, because that would be a good thing to kind of have like a coalition that goes to these communities and just teach people how to do it. Somebody has a resource somewhere, what I mean? Where they can like offer a free course on how to do something like this. So if I come to you, Paris, I'm coming to you for advice on how to get this whole financial journey of mine set up. What are some things that you require from me? Like, what is it that you need to see, or is it something I need to bring to you? Like, let me see your finances. Let me see what you're dealing with. Like, how does that work if we're sitting in kind of like a consultation space?
Yeah. I mean, for me, the first thing I want to know is what's your vision? I think vision is where it starts, and vision is what's going to keep you on the plan once you're clear about why you're doing this and where it's helping you to go. And usually, especially for those of us in our community, what motivates us is it goes beyond ourselves. What am I doing for my community? What am I doing for my family? What am I doing for the generations that come after me? And once you have that vision to be clear, then we can talk about how to get there. You need money. This all starts with money, right? So how are we going to free up room in your budget to do the things you want to do? And it's going to be a combination of bringing in more and spending less. And those are the two things we're really going to double down on, to do that in ways that align with your values and your priorities. So it feels good in the process. And you know that you're building toward that vision that you have in mind for yourself.
But I like my cable though. How do I have to get rid of that? Do I have to
get rid of your cable? You can get rid of your cable. Right? It's like, we got to start with what's the value? How much money is that going to cost? And once you set the parameters, then you can spend that money that you set, spend on whatever you want. It's going to be up to you. Might have to give up something else for your cable, but it's up to you.
But Paris, I got this like $35,000 chain I want to buy. Like, what?
Well, you're gonna need some $35,000 money.
See, that's what it is. Well, somebody came to you and said that was the vision. I want to buy a $35,000 chain. Would you tell them get out of here?
Oh my goodness! I see your vision. I'm not responsible for the vision, so you got to set the vision. If that's whatever your priorities are, and we just got to talk about how to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Because you said something interesting, even in terms of like buying a car.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a mindset shift, and typically for folks who say they don't have money, we're at our age now where we're starting to think about investing and starting to think about the future and wondering, where are we going to find the money for that? And for most of us, we're spending our money on a car note and insurance, right? And so it takes a mind shift to realize that you don't have to buy a new car to have a car. Right. And what is it costing you to take that route? So that's the quick and easy route. Show up to the dealership, get a loan. We think of that as normal, but it's actually leveraging your future, right? You now, for whatever that car costs you today is how many millions of dollars you could have had toward retirement in the future.
Exactly.
And that's the choice we're making every day, but we don't realize it. So part of it is like raising our awareness to realize what sacrifices we're making with these choices.
Right. So having a total mind shift which is the cornerstone of any change you want to make in life, is changing your mind first and your approach to different things, So before we get ready to wrap up, I had a fun fact. I heard you're a singer. Is that the truth?
I've been known.
Belt out
sing a couple notes here and there.
Okay.
Is it shower studios, or do you actually?
Oh my goodness! I grew up in church. My mom was a singer, so you grew up around music. You could hold a tune and You can hold your part in the harmonies. And I sang a lot in college. I haven't sung so much since then.
I heard some horrible praise and testimonies. You know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta be there and enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Hey, I'm just kidding with you. I'm quite sure the voice sounds great.
Yeah, I know it does. We're not going to put you on the spot.
Nah.
I had to throw that out there for you.
You had to be there. You had to be there.
Yeah.
So you traveled a lot. What was one of your favorite places to go besides home?
Oh, man. I think going to South Africa was transformational. It was my first time to the continent. So that was like my introduction. And the program that I did, gave us exposure to language and culture. We could sort of see parallels between racism there and racism here. So I definitely learned a lot about myself and sort of got to reflect on my own identity as a Black American. What does that mean?
Right.
So yeah, I think if you can make it to the motherland at some point in your life as a Black person, you should.
And you did that through Harvard?
Yeah. I studied abroad junior year. They paid for it, you know what I'm saying? So
I went to community college. All we went to was Great Adventures. That's crazy.
But how was it when you, like, what was that feeling like when you stepped off that plane and you looked around and you're like, wow, like I'm here? Like, what is?
Oh, goodness. Well, South Africa is also an interesting place to start because it was heavily colonized. And, we traveled around the country, but Cape Town was our home base. Right. Cape Town is a white European city. I mean, so it's also this reflection of like feeling like a minority. I mean, the 3 Black people in my program, we had so many thoughts and so many conversations.
Right.
But, I think it's all part of that identity development. It was at the right time for me, 18 to 22, right?
Yeah. So when you came back, gave you a different motivation? Because a lot of times people say traveling, you got to see other things in order to know what you got.
Well, part of it too, especially as a Black American, I never really identified with the American part of that until I left the country. Mind you, I was in South Africa during the re-election of President Bush. So people had a lot to say about Americans. And, I'm defending myself. I'm like, I'm Black, though. I'm not American. What are you talking about? But by the time you sort of go through that experience, realize your American identity, come back to this country, like, wait a minute, this is my country.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a guest here. Yeah. Like, I'm just as American as anyone else. And so it gave me, I think, a new sense of identity and purpose here and a new sense of ownership of this country just as much as anyone else.
Okay.
All right. I just got to ask you, what's the next book going to be after you get this doctorate?
Y'all will be the first to know,
I really sincerely hope so that this show will be the first.
You never know. You never know. I always have so many ideas. So you got to wait for that right motivation. Do you think it'll be along the line of finance? Do you think it'll be along the line of finance? It might be. I don't know if y'all noticed, but the longest chapter in the book is the education chapter.
It is.
Because that's my field.
Right.
And so there may be more to say there. So it'll just depend on where I think I can add the most value.
Can I give you a suggestion?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. How about you make a book tailored towards the babies?
Say more.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this thing will pop all the way off. Nobody's in that space these days, especially for our people.
Like school age.
Yeah.
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 We'll need something. Originally, that's what I was thinking, and got some advice that young people don't read finance books. So I think we might have to change the medium up. But yeah, definitely some content.
It might have to be something like for, where your parent, the parent can work with the child on it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, obviously, a kid ain't going to pick up no finance book, but it's just something where you and your kid can dance around with it together. You know what I mean? So that's good.
So I want to just end with a quote. It says, "We are our ancestors' wildest dreams, and financial freedom is an important part of that." You know who said that, Trey?
I have no idea.
She did. Paris Woods. I was hoping you didn't jump right in there.
No, I ain't gonna mess it up. If I don't know, I don't know.
You don't know. Hey, listen, isn't that the slice of life? Okay, so we're getting ready to wrap up. So, Paris, can you tell the people where they can reach you at?
Yeah, author Paris Woods on all social media platforms and pariswoods.com.
Okay, excellent. All right, and we thank you once again. And you can reach us. Yeah, we really enjoy what you're doing. The Only One Mic podcast is available on all major platforms that you stream your podcasts on. Also, check out our Only One Mic podcast YouTube channel to catch up on the past and current episodes. And please don't forget to rate the show and subscribe. We got to get more people on top of this. I want them to hear your episode, Paris. Also, we would like to get in contact with the Only One Mic podcast. You can reach us via Instagram and Twitter at the Only One Mic P1, Facebook and LinkedIn at the Only One Mic podcast, and also by way of email at the Only One Mic 00@gmail.com. There you can leave your comments, thoughts. Tell us what you think about the show. Once again, we thank you for your time. Paris, thank you once again. Thank you once again. All right. And we encourage you to speak your truth quietly and clearly and listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant, because they too have their story to tell. So until next time, please keep in mind that we never had to run from the Ku Klux Klan, so we shouldn't have to run from a black man. Peace.
Peace.